All right, let's head over to the Zoom line and talk a little bit about bettering human lives all the way in Colorado. How are we doing today?
Very well, thank you. Great to
And,
be here.
and I apologize because I did not ask you how to pronounce your last name. Is it Hyre?
Hyre. Yep, you got it.
Thank you very much. And I realized that through our entire pre-interview, I never even mentioned that one time. So, and Hyre, Bettering Human Lives, a nonprofit that's about 6 to 8 months old.
That's right.
International. We'll get to that in just a second. So, the genesis of the Bettering Human Lives, let's start there.
All right. Well, really the genesis, I think, is, it came from Liberty Energy, who's been committed, and Chris Wright, the CEO and founder of Liberty Energy, his whole career has really been dedicated toward bettering human lives by trying to increase, access to modern energy, really trying to reduce energy poverty. And he has talked about this, for many, many years, and really started to feel like he wanted to do something perhaps more deliberate in sub-Saharan Africa to begin to make inroads into energy poverty. So in sub-Saharan Africa today, 2.3 billion people every day, every meal, they're cooking over firewood and charcoal. And this is leading to, 3 million premature deaths, far more, more than HIV, TB, and malaria combined. And women and girls are the ones doing this, doing the cooking, spending hours each day, collecting fuel, collecting water, and cooking in these really, really challenging environments. And so Liberty Energy launched this foundation about 6 months ago to really begin to at least tackle that, as the most basic step toward giving families more access to energy. So we are trying to help families, and now we're getting into helping schools as well transition from cooking over firewood and charcoal to using a gas, a propane stove for their cooking.
We'll stay in the kitchen. One of the things I like to tell my son is that life is dishes. Every time you look at that sink, it's full of dishes, but you got to do them one at a time. One at a time. If you tackle each day like the plate, the dirty dishes, you'll finish it. It might take you all day, but one dish at a time, so you mentioned that, hey, you're starting somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's important because you do have to start somewhere, because paralysis by analysis can kick in really quick. You look at those pretty fetal position, rocking in the corner back and forth, wondering if somebody's going to help you.
Yeah.
One of the things I've been mentioning since probably 2014 is women entering the oil and gas industry specifically, which is now more the energy industry. And in some instances, it's even a carbon management industry. But my narrative has not changed, which is I didn't get into the oil and gas industry until 2011. And the first thing I noticed when the women started coming in was, boy, this is something needed, because they bring in a intuition that a man just doesn't have. In the same way, a man can lift things that a woman probably can't due to testosteronal reasons. A woman can bring in an intuition factor that really becomes an important intangible at the end of the day. What's your thought on women bringing intuition into a world that has predominantly been male orientated?
Yeah, well, this has all been very new for me. I'm a nurse midwife. I did grow up with a father in the oil and gas industry, and have some other brother-in-laws who are in the industry as well. But it's wonderful to see, and so for me, I think I've for my whole career, for 30 years, have tried to better the lives, I would say, of women and families and newborns, kind of during a really defined period of time. And it is hard. It is to go, especially the last 7 years or so that I was focused on Africa, just going and seeing what women go through during pregnancy, childbirth, and the newborn period. And so, already feeling like, just lots of empathy about that. But then as I have spent more and more time in Africa and doing some research on postnatal care, and seeing that, oh my goodness, on a day-to-day basis from, for their entire life span, women and girls are carrying out these, very, very laborious tasks that entail walking long distances, carrying fuel, carrying water, and, cooking in these environments, all due to a lack of access to modern energy. In the public health space and the global development space, there's just so much talk of food security, of housing, of health, and all these things. But I've come to realize that nobody's talking about energy, and energy is the true driver of all of that. And until somebody has access to modern energy, they're going to be sort of trapped in this cycle of, of just the amount of time and physical effort it takes to make up for what you and I, to do the laundry, to turn on a faucet, to take a shower, to cook your meal. It's a huge amount of time and effort in a place like sub-Saharan Africa. And so I have really wanted, I've been thrilled to get into this space of clean cooking. As I said, it's just the first step toward a more energy rich life. I know they can't even call it an energy rich life, but at least something.
It's
better
it's
access.
because as you were talking, I kept thinking about hunter gatherers and the different roles the hunter and gatherers play, because the collecting of fuel and water, that's a gatherer. That's the person who in a modern day American household is chopping the vegetables, right? Because that takes time. It's part of meal preparation, etc. And the hunter now is somebody who goes out and makes money, or goes out and gets a caribou, goes out and gets a lion, whatever the meat type of a thing. And in modern day, you basically become the breadwinner, right? The breadwinner to Americanize the African way, I guess.
Yeah.
Look at that is very important, though. I do, because roles have changed so much. My context, I'm a Gen Xer, so we started working at age 10. Do you get hurt? Throw some dirt. It was a very male-oriented patriarchal society. Yeah. And we are transitioning to, where we are getting more intuition. We are starting to notice that, oh my word, why are there so many children carrying these large things and that sort of thing? And I do see the oil and gas and energy industry being the leader. I do. Yeah. And this is one of the examples that we are talking about, is the bettering human lives, to go and teach others how to do these types of things. Question for you on where's the resistance coming from? Because when you think about the world you just described over in Africa, is the resistance the government? Is there a militia that's holding back? Is it infrastructure? Where do you see the resistance coming from, I guess?
Yeah. So I would say there are two things. I mean, first of all, what I've described remarkably is happening in big cities like Nairobi, like Accra. There are very modern, developed places in Africa, and yet even in those cities, only 50% of people are using gas or electricity. They're still, using these charcoal stoves in apartments and in very modern environments. Of course, as you get further out to rural areas, then everybody's using firewood, and that's where the 80% of Africans cooking that. But I would say two things. Number one is just, and I'm going to channel a wonderful woman, Magat Wad here. So is just how incredibly difficult it is to do business. So it's easy for families to go and get, firewood, or spend $1 a day on a little bucket of charcoal. What's really challenging is for them to be able to spend $20 or $30 at one time to fill a propane cylinder, much less buy the stove up front and the hose and the regulator and all of that. So there are businesses that are emerging kind of across that value chain that want to be able to address accessibility and affordability of gas. But it's really hard for those businesses to do business, to get started, just with all the bureaucracy and the regulations and all of that. So it's, you know, even today in big cities, propane cylinders and stoves are not necessarily particularly accessible, or if they're accessible, they're really not affordable. And so just overall, I think the fact that there's just not much, everybody wants to cook over gas. You ask any woman in any environment, they don't want to have this smoky eyes and coughing and feeling, you know, terrible and smoky all the time. You know, for us, what's a novelty to go cook, you know, at a campground? That's what they're having to do every day. And nobody wants that. They love the fact that you can just turn a switch and the gas lights, there's no smoke, there, you know, nothing. So everybody wants it. But for the moment, it's just been very tough for businesses to do businesses that would make it accessible and affordable enough. And then secondly, really is, I think, in many of the African countries, sub-Saharan Africa, is the lack of infrastructure to basically circulate, you know, to bring LPG in, to store it, to get it into cylinders and get that out through a reliable transportation, you know, network. So it's kind of a combination of the two. And our foundation, we are focusing really on almost that last mile distribution. So we are working and supporting the small businesses and local entrepreneurs who are really, you know, the ones who are working with the cylinders and the stoves to try to get more families and more schools with much better access and be able to afford to cook with gas. We'll leave the big infrastructure for the moment to the sort of the big boys and the big local, you know, oil and gas companies, but.
Yeah, and we mentioned before, you know, that either the intuition or the way that the energy world has changed. We're looking at what's called an ESG, environmental social governance, which is directing a lot of global energy now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things when you look at ESG, they've tried to do is they tried to make it spiritual, they tried to make it environmental, they've tried to make it transparent. And I look at it, and one of the things that scares me is that it controls so many areas that are really subjective. You know, that's why I brought up the spiritual part, because
Mm-hmm.
one person's good is defined differently amongst different type of things. ESG is one of those broad blankets that's going to oversee everything, and it's gotten very political in the United States. And one of the things Liberty has done that I thought was quite brilliant was they understood where ESG was coming from. Okay, yeah, I get it. We should recycle, we should clean more, but I don't necessarily agree with this one. So I'm not going to go all in on this. And so they kind of redefined what the planet was trying to do with ESG. And I think there should be more people looking at this model where they'll put out a report, and that report now has become a nonprofit, and that nonprofit is now an international nonprofit trying to solve a problem instead of surfing the web, trying to find some buzzword, putting it on a PDF.
Yep.
Spend 25 grand with a PR firm to get some nice graphics. What do we got, bank? Give us some more money. I mean,
Yeah.
To me, that's what ESG's now become.
Mm-hmm.
I really like what Liberty has done. And I don't know if it's been by design or by what, but I do know that when they started forcing companies to basically do an ESG report, because if you were doing international business, you had to then do an ESG report. Didn't matter if you're an American company. If you want to go over to Africa or Europe, where's your ESG report? So I like the direction that Liberty's gone on this. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Liberty, again, in this tremendous, you know, spirit, working from the heart, really trying to better human lives across the planet. Liberty has, launched this foundation and put in the initial $1 million to get it for us to be able to give to some companies in Kenya and Ghana to get things going. And we're already seeing, so we've already given out some loans, and a company in Ghana, Hinos Energy, they took a loan to be able to install cylinder exchange points, out closer sort of to neighborhoods on the outskirts of Accra. And it's a new a new thought there to be able to just exchange cylinders, something you and I do all the time when we want to, use our gas grill. So that was a new thing, and they're already paying back the loan. So they used it. They've got the cages up and running, and this has happened in a very short period of time. Those cages are starting to generate the revenue that they need to be able to pay us back. So Liberty put in that initial money to get things going. We are fundraising and beginning to be a little bit more deliberate about it now. So fundraising across the energy and industry, but really more broadly, anyone who wants to kind of join us in this effort to better human lives and spread clean cooking. And then on the flip side, what's wonderful about this approach that we're taking is that as that money, Hinos Energy already paid us back an initial, $6,000, and that's money we can now give to somebody else. And so we see that our pool of funding is going to just kind of regenerate over time, and then we're hoping to get some others who will join us in this effort and contribute more money, so that we've got more businesses that we can support, more capital to work with, and then to extend beyond Kenya and Ghana, because there's just huge need throughout sub-Saharan Africa. I'm not even talking yet about South America or Asia, but huge need there as well. Again, 2.3 billion people around the world. So so that's where we're starting, and starting our fundraising efforts really in earnest now.
One of the fundraising efforts is a 5K run coming up. Is that right?
Yep.
Is that the inaugural 5K run?
The inaugural, yes, the first time. So Liberty does all sorts of internal sort of events and other, always sports involved in that. This is sort of, I hope I'm not misspeaking, sort of the first kind of more public facing event. So Liberty Energy is hosting the first 5K run on October 19th. And then all of the registration fees, so all of the proceeds basically, or not even just all of the registration fees are going to come back to the foundation. So we hope it's a way to bring in some funding, but more importantly, just to get the word out there, about energy poverty and clean cooking. Again, I think for so many of us who are used to living the lives that we are so fortunate to live, they are, I think it's hard for people to even fathom that there are still people cooking with firewood and charcoal. So we really want to get that message out via this 5K run, which should be a lot of fun, with food trucks and beer garden and music and all of that, again, being coming through Liberty Energy, and then the proceeds coming to us.
Give us the who, what, when, where, how on it.
All right, October 19th in Denver at City Park. I believe about a 9:00 start time. The registration is open now. So people can register already for the event. And there's going to be some live music from Bison Resources, the CEO of Bison Resources. I don't know if you've come across them, but he has a band, and he's going to be the music. So it's a lot of fun. Good partnership. So we hope to see many people out there.
How can people learn more about your mission and the inaugural 5K run coming up?
Yeah, so www.betteringhumanlives.org is the website for our foundation. And there's information there about the 5K run as well. We also have a social media presence on LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook. So yeah, anybody who follows us can see information about the run as well. So.
And it's bettering with an ing.
Bettering, yes, bettering, the verb, betteringhumanlives.org.
Excellent. And Hyre, thank you very much for your time today. And anything else coming up, feel free to lean on us, okay?
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for helping us spread the word. It's great. Thank you.